All right, I started off kind of on a roll this week, or I should say this month, in that I'm trying to focus not just on how to speak as an executive, but there are speaking opportunities inside being an executive that some of us overlook. And today, I want to show you some ways to navigate when you are trying to negotiate for more money or more investments or more benefits or negotiate anyway. But today we're going to teach you how to negotiate like an executive, like a leader. So that sounds like it'll something to help you. Even if you're not an executive, even if you're not in an executive role, you still want to negotiate this way. So if you want to brush up on your negotiation tactics, stay tuned. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference. So let's dive in.
All right. So in a previous life, well, I don't want to say in a previous life, but in my role at the church, one of the things that I've had the privilege of being able to help people with is I help people negotiate when they're going for jobs. Now, I don't know that they teach this in seminary. I can't tell you that this is like what you learn. It's just something that I've always enjoyed. And to tell you the truth, I wish that in some cases, I love that I've been at the church for as long as I have, but I wish that I could have a chance to do this outside of the church because I love the negotiation phase. And to tell you the truth, it's an opportunity for you to really stretch your skills as a leader, because if you are able to negotiate in a way that causes you to be portrayed in a better light, well, even if you don't get all of the things that you want in that negotiation, you're going to win. Because you're showing yourself as a person who is confident without being arrogant. We talked about that several times. It's a theme. And one of the ways that you can demonstrate confidence is by being willing to negotiate in a way that is demonstrative of your leadership. And not in a way where you're like, I want more money. I can't afford to live. I can't blah, 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 blah. You know, that's the way most of us operate when it comes to negotiation. I'm telling you, you don't have to do that. So I'm going to give you a couple, pitfalls that a lot of people have whenever they're entering into negotiation for a role, whenever they're entering into negotiation for maybe a lateral move. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to executive negotiate. All right, so let's talk about these pitfalls. Number one, you go in and you smell like desperation. That's a pitfall. You smell like desperation. And you operate under the precept that you're there because you're trying to get more money. So you're like, hey, John, I called this meeting because things have been tight in the Linton house. You know, my son is eating more because now he is discovering the carnivore diet and he wants to have his meals prepared from a farm to table type of thing. And, you know, just at my house, I don't know, we just need more money. So I'm coming to you because I have to figure out a way to get more money and I'd like to get a raise. All right, so right off the bat, right out of the gate, you have sunk yourself. You've sunk yourself because you're starting off from the standpoint of what you need, what impact it's going to have on you, and you're also starting off from the standpoint of desperation. Now, does that mean we don't go through seasons where we're desperate and we need more? Of course. We all go through those seasons where money isn't flowing like it used to be, or there's too much month left at the end of your money. That we've all been there. But when you are trying to communicate, you don't want to show up as if you are reeking of desperation. Like, I need money here. I got to figure this out. I got to figure out a way to get money. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, John, please. John doesn't care about that. John is worried about the budget. John is worried about the new hire they have. John is worried about how he's going to have to tell his own board about why expenses have gone up, why commissions are down, whatever. And so the last thing he wants to think about is your grocery bill. So it's that air of desperation. And it's tough because that's not really negotiation. That's you becoming a person who is exemplifying that you can't afford to live. And it turns into more of like a mercy thing instead of a way to discuss your salary. All right. So you don't want to start off with negotiation as if you're reeking of desperation. Okay. The second thing you don't want to do, you don't want to make people afraid of you. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of times when we enter into the negotiation phase, we will do so like, ooh, I have 3 things that I learned about the company. I learned that the last person got paid this much. I learned that this person who's been here a lot longer gets more than me and blah, 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 blah. And we go into it almost with an air of extortion. Now, I'm not saying you've done this. I'm just saying that you come into it with this idea that, I'm gonna bulldoze my way into getting a raise. I'm gonna bulldoze my way into getting them to give me exactly what I want. Well, you don't want to do that. You're making yourself a scary employee. And last week when I talked about interviewing for an executive role, the most important part of interviewing for an executive role, especially if you're gonna have a team, is that you come across in a way that shows the team that they actually want to spend time with you, that they want to see you and not just hope that you're calling in sick and you're not coming to the office. Like when you come in, you want people to be excited that you're there and not cringing that you're there. Even if you're an executive, like, well, I'm really strong and I, get people to put their nose to the grindstone. Yeah, there are a lot of leaders like that, but people want to be around you. That's a good thing. One of the things I pride myself in, one of the things that I enjoy about the church is when I come back from being away or when I'm not in the office, I've had several people tell me that they miss when I'm not there. They miss it. And I'm not even totally that competent. Like, it's not like, I needed you to solve the problems. No, but I really love everybody on my team. I genuinely love them. I love the other pastors. I love the camaraderie of the office. I love the administrators. I love the lead volunteer. I love them all. And I want, I believe that everybody on my team does an amazing job and would be able to do it without me in a heartbeat. But I love that when I'm there, that they enjoy that I'm there, that they're not like, I wish this dude would go home. You don't want to be that way. And the same time, when you're negotiating, you don't want to be a person that scares the people that you're negotiating with. You don't want them to be afraid that you're going to do something. Well, he's going to quit. He's going to walk off, or he's going to start drama. Like, you don't want to be like you're blackmailing them when it comes to your role. Instead, you have to change your focus and make it like, I'm not trying to arm wrestle them into giving me a higher than inflation standard of living increase of raise. I instead am trying to frame it in a way which makes sense that they'd want to give me a raise, which we'll get to some tactics in a moment. But I'm just saying this is a standard approach that a lot of people, you're making them afraid. And the third thing that makes them afraid, and I already touched on this a little bit, third type of attitude is that unless you get this, you're quitting. That's another tactic. If I don't get $25,000 by this date, I'm walking. I'm putting in my 2 weeks. They're going to, let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. Like, I'm out of here because they don't deserve me. They don't. First of all, if you've seen anything in this market over the last 10 years, you'll know that everything is very, 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 very touch and go. And at any given moment, positions can be eliminated. At any given moment, positions can be put into another position, like, roles can be absorbed. And so you're not as expendable as you think you are. I'm not expendable at the church. I'm not expendable as a coach. There's other coaches. There's other speaking coaches. They're not as funny as me, probably don't smell as good as me. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I've never smelled I don't smell executive coaches. Like, I don't go and actually try to smell them. I think that's a felony in some states, but so I can't speak to that. But I can only speak to, I don't want people to feel like I'm threatening them. Like, oh, just so you know, John, I called this meeting because if I don't get a raise by the end of this year, I'm quitting. And you're going to be screwed because you have no idea what my workload is. You have no idea what, like, I've never said to the pastor that hired me, I've never said, you know what, if things don't change around here, I'm out of here. You know, we've had hard conversations and we've had things that have happened over the years, but I've never put him in a position to feel threatened. And I've never threatened anyone as an employee, even in an executive role. And threatening might win you a momentary money windfall, but it's not going to win you a long-term role of likability. You don't want to scare people into wanting to give you more money, more compensation, more whatever it is that you're trying to get. All right? So those are some of the pitfalls. I'm just throwing them out to you before we begin. All right, so that was my intro. Now here's kind of where we're going to go with this. You want to change from a person who is demanding to a person who is negotiating. You're not demanding, you're negotiating. This is a strategic business move. And when you look at it as a negotiation from a standpoint of this isn't personal, this is business, you're going to frame your arguments from the mindset of somebody that's negotiating from a business standpoint, even though your personal livelihood may be at stake, which it is. But you can't frame it that way. Because if you frame it that way, then they're going to smell that you're desperate, they're going to sense that you're threatening, and the likelihood of you having a favorable outcome is lower. So the way that you want to look at as an executive negotiator is not from the three letters ASK, ask, but instead you want to think of ROI, return on investment. Think of it in terms of your boss. What are they going to get out of you being either compensated more, being you with more investment? What benefit is your extra padding in your budget going to have on the organization? What's going to happen? And it's important that we frame it this way because otherwise they're going to think of this as personal. Oh, John, you know, Sam wants a raise. No. Sam's looking out for the organization. So the mindset has to be in terms of a negotiation on behalf of the organization. You have to think in terms of the organization and especially the administrator's interests. Because if you don't, then you're going to find yourself in that desperate place where he just needs more money. Well, I'm not saying that you don't get more money out of it. I'm just saying that your negotiation standpoint has to be from a position of strategy, not from a personal financial windfall. All right, so mindset as a negotiator, not as a person that's asking. So ROI versus ASK. ASK. Did you ever say something? Did you ever look at a word and it becomes weird when you spell it? ASK. 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 All right, it's going to be good. We're going to get through this, okay? We only have a couple of these. All right, so think of ROI, not ASK. Next, you want to use words that positions you as the asset, not as a liability. You want to use words that position you, the employee, as an asset and not as a liability. So, for example, if you go and you say, hey, I've been working here a long time. I need more money, bro. I haven't had a raise in, 6 months. I haven't had any kind of bonus since this. And you did this, you thought that, and I think, I should. No. We are going to use instead language that reflects you being an asset that generates things for your company. And the way that an asset generates is the same way an asset that you would purchase would generate. It brings in income or it produces results, right? So here's some verbiage that you might want to use. Hey, in the time that we've been here together, here is what we have achieved. Then go on to list, because of your role, things that you have brought. Outcome. Hey, I was able to get this budget way down. Hey, this is what could happen if we had, now this isn't always for negotiation for a salary, sometimes it's maybe for more budget, discretionary budget to hire people, to hire personnel. This is like the way my negotiation chiefly has been when it comes to the church and managing the church and when we're dealing with board members. It's more about asset allocation and not about like, hey, I need more money. So it's more about like, how does this look from a standpoint of an organizational structure? Hey, imagine what we could get done if we took $50,000 and allocated it to this particular budget. Or we have accomplished so much. Me being here, I've been able to add this. I've been able to raise the income by X in a period of Y by doing Z, showing you that if we continue on this trajectory, we're doing a lot better. This might be a time to think about salary and compensation based on the projection of what has already been accomplished. So this is what is helpful to sustain growth. That slight shift. Not I need more money, but hey, look at what we've done. You don't want to say, I killed it. Look at what our team has done. Look at some of these innovations. And you want to use inclusive language because they want to see that you're thinking about the team and not just I. There is no I in team. But there is a me if you move the words around. Or letters around. So I would encourage you to move those letters around, focus on the team, and show how me in the middle, how you have helped the team to be able to accomplish goals set out previously by the organization. All right. So you want to use language where you're positioned as an asset and not as a liability. Use language where you're positioned as an asset, not as a liability. Next of all, you want to frame the conversation as an owner, visionary leader. You want to frame the conversation as an owner, visionary leader. So you want to think about three things. This is how leaders should be speaking. Vision. Here is what I'm building. This is my current trajectory. This is what we are working on. Strategy. This is what's going to happen as a result of our team's efforts. This is how we are accomplishing that. And then you ask, margin in the budget would be helpful to maximize my results, my focus. So you want to make sure that when you're framing it, you use vision, strategy, and the ask in terms of the results and not again in terms of you. Hey, here's why here's why our team is not where it was a year ago. And it's, you make sure that you talk about those results and you use that triangle of influence, vision, strategy, and ask as a leader would in order to position yourself as someone that would merit more income, someone that would merit more money. Ramit Sethi is Ramit Sethi, Ramit Sethi. I think he's got the corner of the market when it comes to salary negotiation. You can find his stuff online. He has a great book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. He has another book that just came out, I think it was this past year, called Money for Couples. And he's an extremely gifted negotiator. And he has a bunch of scripts on his website about how to do this. Framing the vision. Hey, if we were able to do this in the next 6 months, what would this do in terms of impact on compensation, right? So again, you're thinking more in terms of the vision, the strategy, what you're doing, less in terms of, bro, I need more money, man. Do you know what these tariffs are doing? Do you know what these tariffs are doing, right? So like, you want to make sure you sound like you are thinking like a leader. You're talking like a leader, like an executive, like an owner, and not like a boy, oh boy, I really, really, really need money. Money is good, honey. You want to make sure you need that. All right. Okay. So next of all, one of the things that you do is you anticipate objections in advance. Not like an employee. Oh, can I please? No. Anticipate objections. Hey, how do you anticipate objections? Well, John, I know I'm meeting with you in July, and I know that compensation discussions don't happen until between October and December. I would like to frame this so that if this happens, XYZ, that it will be able to meet those compensation objectives now. What could we do to allow us to reach a certain level of compensation more quickly? What do you need from me in order to show you that this compensation evaluation is worth it? So what you're doing when you're reframing and anticipating objections is you are showing, and this is exactly the same type of mentality for the executive interview. You're showing your boss that you have thought through their position. You've thought through what they have to go through. You know I can't give you a raise in the middle of July. Oh my gosh, come on. We're not even hitting the budget goals, right? I know budget is, okay, so you anticipate, hey, I know July is a tough time to talk about raises. And I know that these types of conversations typically aren't had. But what would need to happen in order to trigger a compensation evaluation, right? So you're bringing them in, you're allowing them to know that these compensation discussions are happening in concert with you thinking about them and knowing that this is a burden that you're kind of putting on them, but you're also trying to help them lift the burden. You're like, hey, I know you got a problem. I'm going to help you lift that problem. I'm your guy. I'm your solution here. I'm going to make this happen. And what can I do to make sure that we get X, Y, and Z to happen faster, more efficiently? What would this look like if, and you ask that question, let them answer. You don't want to come, I really need $15,000 extra in my pay, or I need $20,000, or I need some more money in our stock options, and you want, another anticipation thing that you can do is give them options. If you're in an executive role, you have more options than if you're just in a salaried state of employee. So I'll give you an example. I work with private equity leaders a lot, and I speak to them and I coach them. And private equity folks are all about negotiation and figuring things out. And you can negotiate more what they call carry. Of course, that's similar to, like, if you're not familiar with this, but it's similar to like stock options based on investments made within the company. I'm oversimplifying it. Don't come at me, PE bros. You know what I'm talking about. But that's something to do. Okay, well, we can't give you a $30,000 raise right now, but maybe if we gave you a little bit more carry consideration of these upcoming deals, maybe that would satisfy, right? So you're giving them that option. You can also negotiate in terms of PTO. I know that sounds silly, but let's say, look, I know now isn't the time for salary. Everything's kind of on hold, but would you consider more PTO, or would you consider this? So you're giving them, oh yeah, I can give them an extra day. I can give them an extra week. Like I could do that. I could definitely do that. So you're giving them, now I'm not saying if that's not what you want, don't do that, but I'm saying this is something else that they could do that will benefit you if money isn't the deal. You could say, look, whenever bonuses are given, would you be willing to give me X percentage of this instead of X percentage of this, right? Would you be willing to give me X percentage of the increase in the budget based on this? Like, you come up with that solution. You show them that you've thought it through. One of the things that I learned in Dale Carnegie is when you're bringing up a problem to a decision maker, one of the best things that adds credibility to your argument is that you give them more than one solution. I would stick with 3 because 3 is a good number. But the reason why you want to give them more options, that's saying I just need more money, you want to show them that, hey, I've thought this through on every end. Like, I'm trying to make this easy. I'm trying to figure out a way for us to come to grips with a way that makes the most sense. Like, so I was coaching somebody in Nashville not too long ago. I met them at a conference, and they were talking about going to a church board and talking about how the pastor is not paid a lot. Now, spoiler alert, most pastors are not TD Jakes. Most pastors are not flying around in private planes and have multiple mansions. Most of them are not like that. I am not like that. I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for 21 years. This is why I have side hustles. This is why I have, Dale Carnegie certifications. This is why I sell books. This is, ministry is tough. All right. So I was talking to a man who was working with a church board about the pastor's compensation. And the board was kind of in a bit of a difficult position because they were upset that the pastor started to work on the side. I think he was Ubering or Grubhubbing or something, which a lot of pastors do. No harm, no foul. I Ubered. One day I'll tell you my story about Ubering. I did like 5 Uber trips, and the one pushed me over the edge. It's a whole story for another time. But essentially, I said, well, here's what you want to do. You have to go to the board and tell them, look, if we can't pay you enough, and this is from a board standpoint, this isn't from an asking for more money from the pastor's standpoint. No. I'm saying the board should come up with a couple options of things that they could give instead of money. Say, look, we can't match the money. You're like right now, for example, for me, my church couldn't pay me what I'm making on the side in coaching. Like that, I wouldn't ask for that. Okay. But what I would tell the board, if they had a pastor like me that's trying to have his wife stay home and raise kids, I would say, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to give them more flexibility in their schedule. You're going to tell them, look, you can have more flexible office hours as long as you get your work done. You can, skip out a little bit early as long as you're meeting a certain level of criteria. Give them more flexibility. Tell them, we understand, we're going to be flexible with you. Just that flexibility alone is, for me, if I was that pastor, that would be worth way more than the income, because I could figure out what I could do with the flexibility by making more income on the side. Secondly, we might not be able to give you more flexibility because we need you, because you're the only staff person and we need you to be here all the time, but maybe we can hire help for you. Okay, boom. I would love that. I'd be like, please hire me, help me get somebody so that I don't have to do as much, so I can be more flexible and make more money on the side. And then third might be, maybe we'll give you more vacation time, or maybe we'll, give you a couple months where you can, or a couple weeks where we can get somebody in the pulpit to preach for you while you can spend more time with your family and not feel so overburdened, whatever. But I said, don't tell the pastor no, give them options. And so from the standpoint of the person asking, you want to have the options already cut out so that you're eliminating the opportunity for them to go, I don't know how to help you with this. I can't give you money. Well, give them other options. Give them an A, B, and C. And all of them should benefit you, but it should be a win-win when you're negotiating. It should be a win-win, you and them. So you want to anticipate those objections by giving options. Not as the employee that wants money, but as a partner that like, hey, we're both looking at this thing. We got to come up with a solution. We got to get a solution. We got to figure out the best way that this works. And you come up with that win-win mindset. All right. So now last thing I'll say, and this is kind of bonus, a couple bonus things. And just so you know, little plug, if you need help negotiating an interview or negotiating with a salary increase or negotiating with a board or any of that stuff, I am your guy. I'm really good at this. I'm not tooting my own horn. The clients that I've worked with have had really good experiences because I love helping people win. It's in my DNA. It's like my thing. That's why I went into coaching. That's one of the reasons why I went into pastoral ministry. I love helping people. I love seeing people have those breakthroughs. So podcast at SamuelLinton.com. You will not regret it. Podcast at SamuelLinton.com, and I will help you. But last couple things. Avoid over talking. Don't be like blah, 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 to the point where you're filling every bit of silence with more and more drivel. Don't do that. Avoid sounding emotional or entitled. The EE. Don't do that. Okay, so don't be like, well, I've been here longer than so and so. I deserve blah blah blah. No, none of us deserve anything. I don't deserve any. My church treats me so well. And they care about me. I don't deserve what the church does for me. I don't deserve what my clients pay for me and coach. I don't deserve what Dale Carnegie has done. No. But I'm not going to enter into it like, what about I deserve blah, blah, blah. None of us deserve anything. Everything is a blessing from the Lord. Put my Christian hat on. Everything comes from the Lord. We don't deserve anything. We're not entitled to anything. So you don't want to approach this kind of a conversation with an entitled, spoiled brat mentality. Next of all, list the wins. Talk about what you've accomplished, but avoid over demonstrating those wins to the point, if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have even gotten blah, blah, blah. No. Just, we won. We killed it at that. This was awesome. And give other people credit. Show them that you are not afraid to share the glory, because an employee that is glory hungry is going to be put to the bottom of the list every time, because they have to be able to get along well with others. And I always say the turtle doesn't make it to the top of the fence post unless somebody puts them there. So the same with an executive. Unless that team is firing on all cylinders, unless the church staff is doing well, it's not me. I can't function without the volunteers and the church staff. All right? And then be careful to avoid, be careful to consider how what you're asking is affecting the overall vision and mission of your organization. Okay, now this is a little bit of a flowery one, but let me explain. Make sure you are not asking them something that is so outlandish and nonsensical that it's going against. Like, hey, I think, not one single employee here gets paid this much carry. I think I should get paid this much. Or not one single person here has gotten 16 weeks paid vacation. Everybody gets 3. I think I should be entitled to 16. You want to make sure that you're not so outlandish. And I walk the line between you should be duly compensated, but at the same time, fairly compensated, but at the same time, you should be duly aware of what other people are doing in a way where you're not making sure that they're violating their culture for you. You don't want to destroy culture because you need a raise. All right, so I've thrown a lot at you. This was a kind of a dense episode, but you know what? You paid a lot, so you get a lot. I'm just kidding. This is all free. Hey, share this with someone that's negotiating for a raise, or share this with someone that might be trying to figure out a raise. And the bad news about going for a raise is most compensation is increased not from within a job, but it's usually when you go to a different job. That's why you see a lot of people in executive roles. They go from here for 3 years, there for 4 years, there for 2 years. And there's drawbacks to that, but I will tell you that if you apply some of these things, you're going to do better than if you didn't. And if you go at it from the approach of somebody that is working as a team member and a leader and as an owner, you're going to do a better job than if you go as an employee that's just begging, like, what's the little, I think it's Annie. Is it Annie that says, can I have some more? Like, that, like, you have the bowl and you're like, please, and you don't have any evidence, right? So go at it from the leader's standpoint, go kill it, and make sure you speak like an executive because you are a leader. Everybody's a leader. You're leading yourself well. So that's the Sam Linton Show. Until next time, shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll be back soon.